This now, truck drivers now don't have to stand in long queues to get their COVID-19 vaccines. The Road Freight Association has partnered with Trucking Wellness, Engen and the National Bargaining Council for the industry to bring vaccines to the road. Drivers en route to their destinations will now use the N3 corridor to get their jab. For more on this, I'm joined now by Gavin Kelly of the Road Freight Association, his CEO there. And Gavin, thank you for joining me, sir. Let me start with this pilot. I believe you will be piloting this at the Engen Highveld between certain dates in September. Tell us more. What is the plan around this pilot, and when will you know that this pilot is successful and therefore roll out the entirety of the project?
Oh, good afternoon, Tula, and good afternoon to all your viewers. Yes, you're quite correct. We want to pilot this starting on the 6th of September at the Engen R21 truck stop, and we want to see whether drivers are actually going to use this facility that we're going to offer them. And if they say, well, if they use it, not if they say, if they use it, then we can start rolling it out onto the other major routes around the country. We've already vaccinated over 1,800 employees in the industry in the Isando area. So now we want to take it to a truck stop because we know that a lot of drivers don't have the ability to get to a vaccination station. So we're taking it to where they are driving, where they're operating on a daily basis.
This would suggest to me, Mr. Kelly, that you are responding to a specific need, right? What is the impact of COVID-19 within the trucking industry that you are trying to respond to?
Well, I think what we're trying to do, Tula, is that we want to ensure that our drivers, in the first instance, our employees, are safe. So let's get the vaccination to them so that they don't have to worry about what's happening in the world around them and every time one of these new waves of infection starts. That's the first thing. It's not that they are now spreading the virus. The second thing is that they move across vast areas of the country. So their risk to exposure is probably going to be a lot greater than somebody who stays relatively close to where they live and goes to work somewhere close to that. A lot of these drivers move cross border, so their exposure is far higher. So we want to make sure that they are safe and that wherever they are then moving or working or traveling through, that they don't bring a virus with them to other people as well. So it's making sure that we get that done. The second thing is to break the stigma that's around the vaccination. There are a lot of people who believe that if you get vaccinated, you're going to have an old version of some computer software system put into you or some sort of tracking thing put into you. No, there's nothing like that. This is to make sure you stay healthy. It's a simple process and you can move on with your life.
I imagine that this will be located within broader concerns about the health and wellness of truck drivers. As you say, the long distances they cover, the cabin fever kind of setup that they deal with on a constant basis. But also previously, we've been dealing with other diseases and illnesses in our society, issues such as the spread and transmission of HIV. We needed to respond to that within that sector and also sector-specific response to that, but also issues of mental health. Put it in context for me around the whole approach to the health and wellness of your employees.
Well, one of the partners that you referred to when we opened this discussion was Trucking Wellness. Now, Trucking Wellness used to be Trucking Against AIDS or HIV/AIDS. If you remember, many, many years ago, that was one of the very big scourges that we had to deal with. So, in conjunction with the National Bargaining Council, we created the project called Trucking Against AIDS, now called Trucking Wellness, which is a system of mobile clinics that travel around the country and do various health checks and has a supportive nature in terms of their projects for our drivers. So, for example, we look at diabetes, we look at eyesight, we look at various health aspects in terms of psychological health, in terms of other eating disorders perhaps. We give them diet plans because you know what we all do when we're on the road, we eat chocolates and Coke. So making sure that they don't, through stress, end up being diabetic or that they look after themselves in terms of their health. So the idea is that this slots in very nicely with our mobile clinics, and that's just another part of ensuring that our truckers are looked after in terms of their health.
Yeah. Lastly, please weigh in for me on this issue around you can take care of your driver's health and wellness as best as you can, and sort of, try and do your part in as far as that is concerned. But you and I know recently we've been faced with another scourge, which perhaps is not so much within your control as it is in the control of the state, ensuring security of the supply lines of the country. Since what happened in July, and the interventions that were introduced, and we were told there would be patrols on the N3, soldiers and SAPS, etc. We saw an incident, I think, a few days or a few weeks after that in Mpumalanga between Mkhondo and Emelo, where there were some trucks that were torched. Just a sense of the safety and security situation of the haulage trucks on the main arteries of our country's economy.
Yeah, Tula, that's always a topic for discussion, and I suppose we could spend a number of hours talking about that. It isn't as bad as it was during those protests. I think we were all quite shocked at how vulnerable a number of our arterial roads were, and as well as we thought that there was a fair amount of security presence or police presence around there that would ensure that this sort of thing didn't happen. So, of course, there have been a number of proposals made in terms of that. And apart from visible policing, it's ensuring that there is decent reaction. But more importantly, something that we've really been strong about is that those who are apprehended, who are found to be inciting violence or in actual fact doing the violence, killing drivers. We've had instances over the last couple of years where drivers were killed, that something needs to happen in terms of that they're apprehended, prosecuted, and that the punishment that is required to stop this sort of behavior actually takes place. The real worrying thing is that quite often trucks get caught up in disagreements or unhappiness that has nothing to do with logistics. So, for example, in the Ermelo area, that recent incident was about unhappiness of a tender being given to somebody to develop a mall. And trucks were in the area. It was a good idea for the protesters, it would seem, to block the road with trucks and then to set the trucks alight. So it is still concerned. There's still a lot of work being done in terms of ensuring that both our South African police services have the ability to keep security happening and to ensure that the prosecutions or the investigations are done.
All right, Gavin Kelly, thank you so much for your time and your insights there. And thank you for your weighing in on that question around security. It is really one of those, to use the president's favorite words, burning platforms of our country, because it just emphasizes this sense of insecurity. If we can't secure our supply lines, our logistics, what are we as a society? Gavin Kelly from the Road Freight Association weighing in on that.